You know those old weathered books that you have on your bookcase behind you for those Zoom calls? Try and look sophisticated. Here's why you should actually read them. Carl Sagan once said this: "What an astonishing thing a book is. It's a flat object made from a tree with flexible parts on which are imprinted lots of funny, dark squiggles. But one glance at it, and you're inside the mind of another person. Maybe somebody dead for thousands of years. Across the millennia, an author is speaking clearly and silently inside of your head, directly to you. Writing is perhaps the greatest of human inventions, binding together people who never knew each other, citizens of distant epochs. Books break the shackles of time. A book is proof that humans are capable of working magic. Books are magic, especially the old ones." Book choice matters. No matter how fast you read, no matter how much time you dedicate to it, there are simply too many good books in this world and not enough time. And for every good book, there are hundreds or probably thousands of really bad ones. And so your choice of book is very important if you want to get the most out of your reading. And here's why I think you should read old books. Old books have stood the test of time. And that's the most important criteria. But not enough of us use it as a criteria. Most of us will allow bookstores and marketers and bestseller lists to decide what we are going to read. And that's a mistake. When we do that, we end up reading books with shiny covers written by famous people about trendy topics, but unfortunately that wisdom often fades within days or weeks after reading it. Old books that have survived into the 21st century have done so because they were so impactful that there were people willing to drag them into today's world. And that's a big deal. They have survived against the current of entropy. They are quite literally the cream of the crop. And the most staggering thing, for me at least, is that the problems that those people were dealing with all those years ago are exactly the same problems we're dealing with today. So the wisdom hasn't changed, right? Human nature hasn't changed. And so these books are even more relevant than they ever were. The things that those ancient writers worried about plague us today. The underlying human condition hasn't changed. And so those books remain relevant hundreds or even thousands of years after they were written. And there's something magical in that. The ancient wisdom is what we should be looking towards, not your latest self-help guru. Now I know, reading old books is hard. I get it. We all have had that experience reading Shakespeare at school and absolutely hating most of it. And that gives us a bitter taste in our mouth when we think about classic works of literature. The language is difficult to read. The cultural references make no sense. The names are difficult to pronounce. These books are difficult to read because you have to work for the benefits. You actually have to dig through the text. It isn't just served to you on a silver platter. And that's a good thing. We've all gotten lazy. We're used to reading blog posts and listicles and tweets and all that good stuff, and we're not used to having to work for that knowledge. We want things spelt out for us. We want the shortcut. We want the spark notes. But if you've lived on this earth for long enough, you'll know that those bullet points don't change your life. They fade over time as the inspiration fades away. The knowledge, without any application, means it's just another Instagram quote for your social media. I firmly believe that the act of reading books that are difficult, that are maybe just out of your reach, make you a better person. When you're forced to wrestle with concepts and dig through topics and fight for ideas, they stick so much more and they are so much more impactful. That's when you have a chance to think for yourself. When you're reading the same new books that everyone else is reading, you're learning the same stuff. You're going to think the same way. You drink the same Kool-Aid as everybody else. I'm convinced that the challenge of reading old books is the antidote to our short attention span, to our hypersensitivity, to our anxiety in a way. Diving deeply into an old classic that has survived war and famine and turmoil is a superpower, and that magic is within your reach. Alright, so you've picked up one of the classics. Hopefully. Here are 3 ways to make them more approachable. Tip number 1. Ignore boring sections. You're not reading these to have said that you've read them. You're not reading them to read them cover to cover. You're looking for golden nuggets. And so don't let a slow section get in the way of you making progress. If there's a paragraph or section or even a chapter that's really not resonating with you, feel free to skip it. The moment you get stuck in those quagmires because you're determined to read every single word from cover to cover, that's when you lose the enthusiasm and you lose the wonder of these books. So feel free to skip sections that are putting you to sleep. By following your curiosity, you'll be able to get so much more out of these books without driving yourself insane. Tip number 2. Write all over the book. In the margins, on the back page, on the front page. Make it yours. I know this is very difficult for me because I've grown up with this idea that you don't write in books, right? Our childhood programming comes in and we don't want to touch these books. But writing in them and on them is so important because it allows you to have a dialogue with the author and allows you to really interpret and work through what you're reading. The more you engage with what's on the page, the more you're going to retain and the better you're going to be able to apply it to your own life. Tip number 3. Supplement your reading with some form of contemporary review of that work. So after you've finished the book, only after you've finished, go and find 2 or 3 modern authors who have reinterpreted that work and read what they have to say. Often that helps us to contextualize what we've just read and give us more of a sense as to how to take this forward. But only do it afterwards. If you do it beforehand and you try and take the shortcut, you're defeating the whole point. Hopefully those contemporary authors can show you potentially a blind spot or potentially a different way of thinking about what you've just read. So that's it. That's why I think you should read old books. I'm going to leave 1 or 2 suggestions in the description below, but please, it doesn't matter what you start with. It only matters that you start. An old book is not just the paper. It is a portal to a treasure trove of human experience, wisdom, and transcendence. It's not sexy, it's not popular, it's not going to win you any likes on your Instagram or your TikTok. But it might just change your life. So that's it. This is the first time I've taken a blog post of mine and turned it into some sort of video essay. So I'm experimenting with this. I'd love to know what you think, whether you liked it or not. If you did like it, please like, subscribe, you know the drill. Do all the things. And hopefully I'll see you very soon for another video essay.